Well, good evening. Welcome to Bedtime Stories with me, Pastor Michelle. Today is Thursday, November 26th, and today is Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, everyone. So our story of the night from the Disney book is from Mickey and Friends. And it's called Donald Duck Goes Camping. Uncle Donald was taking Huey, Dewey, and Louie camping. When they arrived in the woods and found a camping spot, Huey and Louie helped their uncle put up the tent while Dewey read from a camping guidebook. The guidebook says to hang the food locker from a tree. Dewey said, I know everything there is to know about camping. Donald said, the food will be all right on the picnic table. But just then, two squirrels scampered down from a tree and snatched a bag of peanuts. Hey, come back here, Donald shouted. The guidebook says it's good to share with little animals, Louie said. I don't care what the book says. Those are my peanuts, replied Donald. The two squirrels ran along the tree branches and chattered at Donald again. This time they seemed to be laughing at him. I'll get even with you, Donald yelled. He climbed up the tree toward the squirrels. Just as he was about to grab them, they leaped onto a thin branch. The book says to stay off small branches, Dewey called out to his uncle. Crack! Suddenly, the branch broke and Donald fell into the river. Help! Pull me out, he said. He tried to swim toward land, but the current was too strong. He spotted a rock and grabbed onto it. Do something, he called to his nephews. Look in the guidebook. Huey, Dewey, and Louie started flipping through the book, and they only looked up when the squirrels returned with a beaver. The beaver waddled to a tree that stood beside the river and began to gnaw at it. He's trying to help, Dewey said. If the tree falls into the river, it might be long enough to reach Uncle Donald. A few minutes later, the tree fell over with a crash, and Donald climbed along the tree trunk toward dry land. Once safely ashore, he ran toward his car. Where are you going? His nephews called. An hour later, Donald returned. His car was filled with presents for the beaver that had helped him and all the other animals too. They were delighted and they munched on their treats. Well, good for Donald Duck for standing up and giving a gift and thanking the animals that saved him. All right, my friends, our woman of the hour is Ida B. Wells, and she was a journalist and an activist. So she was a natural-born activist. Whenever she saw injustice, she stood up against it, as we all should. She was born a slave in Mississippi, but emancipation came to the South when she was still a child, and this meant she had the opportunity to get an education. After college, she worked as a teacher, but lost her job for criticizing the poor conditions of the black segregated schools. In 1884, 71 years before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus, Ida refused to leave her seat in the women's car on a train in Memphis, Tennessee. She had purchased a first-class ticket but was asked to leave and join the African-American car. Ida did not go quietly. She filed a lawsuit against the railroad and eventually won her case. There was no rule that said black women could not ride in the women's car. However, segregation legislation was soon implemented in Tennessee, and Ida received no further justice in the matter. 3 years later, her case was overturned. She took her frustrations and wrote an article in the newspaper under the name Iola, and later became known as Iola, Princess of the Press. Journalism became her outlet. She was the owner and editor of the Memphis Free Speech and Headlight, and later the Free Speech. She took a major stance against lynching and faced death threats for her words. In 1898, she led a huge anti-lynching campaign all the way to the White House. Ida knew the power of words and knowledge and continued to use her voice to stand up for what was right. So good for her. And I think we as people, as human beings, we should always be willing to stand up against justice and to speak out whenever we need to speak out. I continue to just lift up this nation, our nation, in prayer. God bless you all. Have a lovely, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving.